First of all, you guys blessed me today. You guys tore it up, and I was telling you, Mark, that this session was supposed to happen 3 years ago. And, you know, obviously these songs go back even further than that. So for me, it was pretty emotional just hearing these songs and with the artistry you guys bring. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
profound and profuse gratitude.
Hi, I'm Norm. I was born and raised in Japan, and I'm half Japanese. When I was a kid, I took a couple strings off an old guitar, and that was the beginning of my career as a bass player. Two of my favorite things are music and sushi. Welcome to my home. I'm Norm Stockton, and this is Grooves and Sushi. Okay, wow. I didn't see that one coming. It only took 3 years, but I'm elated to have finally been able to do the last shoot for Grooves and Sushi Season 1. And what a shoot it was. The band was a lean and mean four-piece, including the incredible Mr. Chris Coleman on drums, the astounding Mr. Mark Lettieri on guitar, and the amazing Mr. Rob Rinderer on keys. It's difficult to describe how good it felt to make music again after this past year. Chris summed it up best after the shoot when he said that he needed this and it felt good to feel human again. It truly did. We had a venue change to help ensure everyone stayed safe and healthy. But otherwise, it was the usual, mad musicianship interspersed with thoughts of what Chef Kevin had lined up for dinner. In this episode, we'll be performing one of my absolute favorites of the whole album. I'm so stoked to share with you A Wristwatch on Mars. While a few of us have worked together in the past, this lineup of musicians has never played together, and this song has never been performed before this taping.
Kampai.
Kampai.
Kampai, kampai.
Tink, tink, tink.
My arms
That'll
aren't
be a
quite that long,
Foley effect.
but yeah, you can.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so take,
that's
wow. Take a sip and then take a couple pieces, you know?
Thank you.
Takuam.
They're gonna get all the crunching in the labs and everything. That's like the whole
I'm gonna
part of the.
yeah. My jaw pops.
Oh, nice.
And so I'm gonna be like muting all this.
Cool.
Bro.
I would like a plate reverb on my jaw, please. If you could throw that together.
Did you grow up eating sushi?
Yeah. I mean, I think actually the first time I ever had it, beyond, you know, the grocery store California roll variety, me and a friend and his mom and dad, they took us to see the Rolling Stones. I think I was like 15 or something. And we had sushi at Yoshi's.
Oh, yeah.
The jazz spot. I don't think anyone was playing that night though, but so that was the first time I had like a nigiri thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I been, you know, I've been missing this my whole life. And then we went and saw the Rolling Stones with Pearl Jam opening, so that was pretty good.
I have lots of respect for Americans that will eat nigiri and stuff, because, you know, for me, it's like, I was raised on it, so it's like, it's not funky.
Sure.
But if you're used to eating burgers and steaks, I think nigiri is pretty outside.
Well, I sort of in turn turned my parents onto it.
Yeah?
My mom grew up in Florida, sort of country style living, and my dad's Italian, Italian American, so like they weren't eating sushi on Sunday dinner, but now they're into it, so bit of an evangelist.
Full on.
So 2009, I get a random phone call from Tall Wickerfield, bass player. She's like, hey, I got this situation with this artist, what are you doing? What's your schedule? I'm just like, doing New Kids on the Block, kind of on a hiatus. They don't know what's gonna happen, if they're gonna do anything, blah, blah, blah. So she's like, what would you like to play with? I'm like, well, who is it? Oh, I can't tell you that right now. I'm like, exactly.
Really?
I was like, Tall. It's 2009. We don't do that. It's like, you ask somebody to do a gig, you tell them who it is, right? This is LA. You can't do that, right? So I eventually squeezed it out of her. And finally, when she said, okay, it's Prince, I was like, okay, so is this a joke?
I sense my availability.
Right? But for me, I'm looking around like, is this punked? Am I being punked? She said, okay, so put together a collage, so I was trying to send enough. I'm thinking, I can go anywhere you want to go, Moving forward, she says, okay, I'll send it off. So that was the longest, 2 weeks of my life, because I'm just like, I had an audition without auditioning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I gonna know? Is he gonna say yes or no? And finally, she calls me up, she said, yeah, he wants to meet you. I'm like, huh? So January, here it is, December, first time we went out.
So he called you for a project, though?
Yeah, he had been trying to get this, or work with her and put something together for the last 2 years, but she just wasn't gelling with a lot of the drummers,
Thank you.
A few of the drummers that they play with. So finally he said, look, just you find a drummer and then you let me know who you think and then I'll go from there. So that's how that happened.
Wow.
So you tracked in 2010, probably?
Yep, 2010.
And then the project was never released.
It wasn't released, but they started touring and playing the music. And I was bummed because I was like, that's supposed to be us, It didn't work out, scheduling conflict,
Okay.
Other people had already accepted tours, and he didn't give a specific. He just said, let's record, and we didn't know, okay, does this mean we're just recording? Are we gonna, he's kind of like a fly by the seat of his pants, or in his world. He's in his world, that type of thing. So we did the record, and then he initially said, hey, block off everything from July on. I'm like, oh my God, it's about to go down. And then the scheduling conflict happened.
Oh, man.
And so it was just on the back burner. And from, I would say July for the rest of that year, I was a mess. I didn't know what to do. How do you go record with him? You don't play, it doesn't come out. And it's like, where do you go? Where do you go? Who do you go play for? Who do you work with at that point? I would go to my drum room, sit down and go, do, and just be like, because I didn't know what to practice, bro. I was a mess.
But they are releasing it in July.
Yes, July 30th is the scheduled date.
And you played on everything but
3 tracks. John Blackwell's on one.
super cool.
Yeah, it's exciting, man.
was always something on in the house, you know, or in the car. One of my earliest memories were listening to my folks music, like the Eagles and Jackson Browne and Crosby, Stills and Nash and the Beatles and the Beach Boys and all the great like 50s and 60s.
That still holds up.
Yeah, rock and Motown and Stevie Wonder and Little Richard and whatever, you know, whatever it was. So I got a dose of the real stuff like early on, you know. And my dad plays a little bit of guitar as a hobby, so there was one in the house, old acoustic. Yeah. And they would just let me beat up on it, you know. And so 11, 12, they were like, all right, he's beating up on it a lot. You know, he's taking the guitar and it's now staying in his room, you know. So
what kind of stuff were you playing?
Oh, I wasn't just making noise. Like I didn't know anything. I was just making noise on it. So they were like, why don't we get some guitar lessons, you know? And so I started taking from a friend's mom because he was taking art from my mom. So we had this like mom teach kid swap afternoon
co-op
thing. Yeah. Nice. So we'd have a little art class, whatever, and then we have a little guitar class. And so that got me on the path to learning open chords and Beach Boys tunes. And, you know, it was always a passion immediately. Like as soon as I found out I could make songs and connect sounds, you know, you're like, this is cool. I have an identity here.
I don't know if this is going to end up being called nomenclature or not, but that third song we played, the funk jam, you know, and you just laid it down with this valley-like pocket, you know. There's a lot of younger players that are probably mostly attracted to your playing from seeing just the monster filling up of the measure, but they can't do that, you know.
Man, I can speak for myself. I've had conversations with Calvin Rogers, Aaron Spears, Thomas Pridgeon, you know, some of the younger cats. Even Ronald Bruner, we've had conversations. It's like, this is cool, you know, to shed and have fun and push each other, you know, iron sharpen iron, but if you get a call for a gig, do the gig, you know? There's a reason you got called. Like, you know, the last thing you want is the artist to be like, turning around like, what in the world? You know?
Yeah. Who was the second guy on that list?
Right.
Starting from the left, it's you have a bluefin tuna and otoro. Then you have a Faroe Islands salmon. Then you have Washington albacore, burry, which is extra fatty winter Japanese yellowtail. Then you have some Japanese Thai, some Hokkaido scallops, and then seared salmon with seared serrano and chili garlic.
Good gracious.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Wow.
Winning. I can't follow that. I don't have it. I mean, my story is not as cool as what we're about to eat.
So you grew up in Northern California, and then you went to TCU in Texas.
Yeah.
And but you didn't go there to study music.
Nope.
And you got your degree in something besides music.
Yep. Well, the joke is I have a BS in BS, but I have a bachelor's of science in advertising and public relations.
Really?
So I can sell ice to an Eskimo, maybe.
You went to school without the intent of studying music.
I was like, you know, at the end of high school, I wanted to do a million things. Like I wanted to play music. I wanted to.
Were you playing in high school? Were you like gigging the whole deal?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't really gigging. There weren't really a whole lot of places to play in Menlo Park, California. Thank you. But I had a band with my friends, and you know that was like a big part of my social scene was having a band with my buddies, and we'd play at church, we'd play at like, you know, teen centers and like school functions, and just a lot of jamming in a garage, which is I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah.
That's like the greatest thing ever, you know. Yeah. So I loved that. I wanted to do that in college. I wanted to study something. I liked advertising. My parents worked in PR at the time, so I was like, well, this is a dinner table conversation. I'm used to it. I understand kind of how the business works. I think I would be good at it. Cool on that front. So I got the music thing, I got the degree thing, and I was an athlete too. I ran track in high school.
Oh, nice.
I wanted to carry that as far as my body would let me, so I walked onto the track team at TCU.
Wow. And
so 4 years of college was playing in a band, going to class, and competing in track. And so I did those 3 things until I could only really do one of them. You know, and I had an internship the semester between my junior and senior year at a big PR firm in San Francisco. And it was like real world hands-on experience, great experience, but also taught me that that's not what I wanted to do in life. So
In your junior,
going into my senior year, it was like, I'm secretly going to be a guitar player.
you pretty much had decided, okay.
And by the end of, you know, when I was graduating, it was like, Mom and Dad, so we did it. We're good. I'm gonna hang in Texas for a minute, see if I can make this music thing happen.
Taking every gig that I could possibly get, just try to make ends meet, but then also like learning my craft and playing top 40, playing country, playing blues, playing R&B, playing jazz, playing everything, you know. Back then there was the Recycler newspaper where you'd get ads for bands.
Like hair metal bands were all formed in the Recycler.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I did a few of those auditions for like heavy metal bands. Yeah.
Those are the days that the keyboard player in the metal band is like either backstage, off stage, under the stage, right?
Well, no, because when Bon Jovi hit it, they were all just like, well, bros, we gotta get a keyboard player now, 'cause Jovi's got a keyboard player, so we're gonna need a keyboard player, okay?
They broke new ground for keyboard
synth
players.
lines. Yeah, so, you know.
And then there was also the musicians contact service, so I'd sign up for that. And you know, again, it was mostly just local gigs, but every once in a while there would be a real artist that would be on there. And one day I'm looking and it says Billy Preston looking for a second keyboard player, and I'm like, Billy Preston? And it's like, I mean, my first influence was the Beatles, and I'd hear the keyboard parts, especially the later stuff. And I go, who's that? And that was Billy Preston. And so that was like, he was my first influence, really, as a keyboard player. And to this day, I mean, he's still probably my favorite B3 player. So I thought, okay, I've got to get this gig. And I had auditioned for Jeffrey Osborne like 6 months earlier, and it went terrible. Everything went wrong, horrible. And I was like defeated, and like I called Carrie, my wife Carrie, and said, I'm quitting music, you know. And I mean, I was serious because I like tried everything, you know. Anyway, so the Billy Preston thing comes up, and I was like, I'm gonna get this gig. So I had a week, and I like learned all the tunes. And I was supposed to do like the horns and the strings, secondary synth stuff. But I just thought, I'm just gonna learn all the parts. I'm just gonna learn Billy's parts. I don't know why I thought that. Maybe God was telling me, I don't know. But I did. And sure enough, Billy didn't come to the audition. It was just the band. And since Billy wasn't there, I just would play both parts. I'd go back and forth. I didn't know it, but they were very frustrated because they had a lot of A-list keyboard cats that were good players, but they weren't taking the gig seriously. and they were kind of jamming more, not necessarily playing the parts. And when he saw how serious I took it, Daryl Woolfolk was the MD drummer, great drummer. You know. Yeah. He got up from his drums. We did a couple songs. He got up from his drums, took his sticks, threw them on the floor, and he's a big guy.
Yes,
He comes up to me, and I'm thinking, what did I do? What did I do?
He's gonna beat you up.
Chest bumps me. You learn both parts, you're in.
So that's awesome.
Wow.
I mean, I was taking gigs off Craigslist, you know.
Is
Seriously,
sushi
like,
in
That's
Dallas?
dope, bro.
it's in Fort Worth.
Okay.
I respect it, bro. That's crazy.
I mean, you know, but what do you do? I was like, it was like,
Exactly.
it's, you know, band with influences of all these bands that I probably didn't even care about, but they needed a guitar player, and I was like, well, I can play that stuff, you know? So I showed up. It's a lot of like random going to some people's houses, like, hey, I'm Mark, you know, Craigslist.
I've done that, yeah.
And like, well, cool, that was cool. Maybe we can,
I think
you
it's
know,
an essential formative experience, right?
I didn't know what else to do. It was like, that's what you did.
There's not a moment in my life, my past, my path, that I can honestly say, oh, I did that. If it wasn't for God encouraging me to go to school, okay, that's one thing, right? To be encouraged to go to school, but then a miracle happening to provide the finances is just like, man, the I part of this is getting real thin. real. I feel like I am me and my sound is me, right? But that me, because of life and the ups and downs, and you know, I know we're talking about more of the positive shade of things, you know what I'm saying? Here together, collectively, you know, we all got stories. For me, sleeping in the truck, you know, to survive, or, you know, that type of thing, and being flat broke, and coming home from tour, and I can't get out of parking because the IRS cleaned my account out. Yeah. You know, I'm like, you know, 12 grand at the time between savings and checking, and I'll make a phone call to check my account, it's $5. And parking is 300. And I gotta back out of line, tell everybody to move, back out of line, go park, and figure out how to get some money. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like, if it wasn't for faith, I don't know if I'd be here. I don't know if I'd be the same person, you know? So I think for me, it's everything, you know? It's everything.
This is artistry, man. This is total artistry.
Yeah, there's another level.
Wow.
You want to go ahead and send your wife another shot?
Nope. Put my phone over there. She had leftovers.
It's like each bite, it's like, sorry, hon.
Yep, my bad.